Welcome to the Side Action Podcast, the sports gambling show that covers everything in the world of sports betting from A through Z. We'll cover the four major sports, as well as anything and everything in between worth some action, and will increase the size of your bankroll. And here we go.
Welcome to the Side Action, episode 5 of season 5. Look at that, 5 and 5. I am Jim Weglars, aka Wegs. You can follow me at Wegspool on Instagram and on Twitter.
And I'm Steve Roberts, aka Action. You can follow me on Twitter at 31sroberts.
Follow the podcast, the Side Action Pod on Twitter and Side Action Podcast on Instagram. So this isn't Friday Night Beers, which is my cousin's podcast. Just a little plug for him. But I saw you drinking an ale, or it could be a Hefeweizen. What are you drinking there?
Oberon.
You know, and look at that glass. Wait a second.
Oh yeah.
For the YouTubers, there it is, the official
Rapid.
Side Action glass. It's a pint glass. You can get that if you download all the episodes of the Side Action Pod and send me an email.
I'm celebrating our golden episode, season 5, episode 5.
There you go. Our golden episode happens once a season, right? So anyway, welcome, Action. Good to see you again. We're back in our studios again, second week in a row. We're getting in our routine. So, how was your weekend last weekend? Did you just kind of chill? You guys, no boat time. It was too cool for that, right?
No, it was a little chilly around here, so we didn't get the boat out. Just hung around town here. There was a Funky Ferndale Art Fest going on 9 Mile, so we headed down there a couple nights. They had music and lots of do-it-yourself art vendors and so forth. It was a good time.
No Eminem though.
Eminem was not there. No, some bands I had never heard of before. But there was cocktails. They had like cocktail tents, just like a Chicago Street Festival.
Nice.
Very similar vibe.
I like it.
Yeah, it was cool.
That's awesome. That's great.
How about you?
Well, normal weekend of, interestingness. I went out with somebody on Fry's Point, tried a new place in Logan Square called Andros Taverna. Little plug. Place is super nice, really tasty.
Cool.
Good vibe. Definitely a lot of action in there. Like just lots going on, but good stuff. A little pricey, but worth it. As you know, Logan Square is like the cool place now. Besides Fulton Market, your old stomping grounds, West Loop, for restaurants, and I'm trying to explore some areas. On Saturday, the Shockers got a win. We had another backup quarterback. We're testing out quarterbacks every week now. The Shockers.
Okay.
The defense was good. We completed the game. We won 20-6. We had 7 interceptions in the game. Actually, they had 3 different quarterbacks. They weren't that great. So hopefully this week we're debuting a guy who supposedly is a good quarterback, friend of a friend. If we get that, I think we can win the championship with this squad just because the league seems a little down. But we'll see. You never know. Went out that night. But yeah, it was a buddy's party. It was like a kind of a fundraiser thing at my buddy's, our favorite spot with the volleyball crew.
Nice.
And then Sunday, what did I do Sunday? Not a lot. It was my nephew. We celebrated my nephew's birthday Sunday night. So, it wasn't like the ragers that I've been having, which is fine. And then, as I mentioned beforehand, we're at the big volleyball. I'm dressed down today, no glasses. I got my contacts in. Just came from the beach action, as you know. I'm playing one more tournament for the year. It's a King of the Court tournament, kind of first ever. Run by this guy I know at Oak Street, and I'm playing with my buddy Luke, who's a regular listener, and we're team Shake and Bake, and from Talladega Nights, and we played together in a tournament before, and it was a really good time. And we have the gear. I don't know if we're gonna wear the gear. I have to check with them, but it's always easy to play with the guy. He's such a great player, but also we're a little older, and we're playing like really high competition in this one. So I would say we were probably a plus 1,500 to 2,500 between that range, maybe plus 2,000 underdogs for this tournament. But we'll entertain the crowd. That's what we'll do.
How do you handicap the gear? Is that like slow you down in any way, or is it just t-shirts and shorts?
It's just t-shirts, really.
Okay.
His girlfriend has a bikini bottom, which probably won't come out in the 60-degree weather, but she's got a flag too, kind of the racing flag, but it says Shake and Bake. So
nice.
It's top notch. She went all out for us to get the gear. So I like wearing it. I'll definitely be wearing a t-shirt out there on Sunday. It's chilly out there. We get the nipples out, hard nipples team.
Yeah.
I'm not about that life myself, so that could be you, actually. You get a better game for that. So.
I don't know. I'd be in a t-shirt too.
All right, well, let's jump into the week 3 recap. A lot of injuries action. This is kind of where we're starting to get injury reports that really matter. I mean, you had some initial injuries week 1, but these are some big ones. We'll just run down the list. The Chargers got hit on both offense and defense. Joey Bosa had groin strain. He's going to be out for a while. And then Rashawn Slater, the left tackle for the Chargers, torn bicep. He's out for the year, which that's a blindside protector for Herbert, and that might have affected them against the Jags on Sunday.
Yeah, definitely. Herbert actually played on Sunday, surprisingly, last minute, but he definitely was not himself, and then losing the left tackle was not help either.
Right. You've noted Mac Jones is not going to play for New England this week. He has this high ankle sprain. He probably missed a couple of games, whether they're going to plug it. They've got Brian Hoyer, the ghost of Brian Hoyer. You know, he was a starter in this league at one time for the Texans and the Bears. So he starts against the Packers. We'll talk about how that affects the handicap. He wasn't exactly lighting it up, but he's better than Hoyer.
Yeah.
Dalvin Cook looks like he'll probably, I think I heard he's going to suit up with his shoulder injury, but
I saw that.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
Interesting.
But I mean, you know, he's not going to be 100%. New Orleans, you've got Michael Thomas is questionable with a toe. Bigger long-term injuries, you got Trent Williams for San Francisco, left tackle. He's out 4 to 6 weeks. You know, maybe that's why Jimmy G played like garbage Sunday night, him getting hurt. And then this was a weird one. Myles Garrett, you know, got in a car accident. It was a single car accident. I already flipped over.
Wow.
Injuries to his bicep and his shoulder, but not life-threatening. He's just kind of being monitored, so I don't actually know his status for Sunday. I don't think he'll play, but we'll see what happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, tough to get in a car accident, single car, unless you're driving erratically, not safely for sure.
And there was another passenger in the car. You know, who the hell knows what happened, but that's big news. Sterling Shepard, poor guy for the Giants, you know. And I watched the play. I don't know how he tore his ACL in that play. He was just kind of jogging you know, to the route, and all of a sudden he just pulled up, and that was it. So he's going to miss another season here for the Giants. They're decimated in the you know, receiving core. And we can talk about it later. You know, Galladay he's like on the shit list for the Giants. So I don't know who Daniel Jones is going to throw to. Minka Fitzpatrick is in the concussion protocol, so he's questionable for Sunday for Pittsburgh, and he's essential to that team. And then we've got a couple more. DeAndre Swift. He's likely out with a shoulder injury, as well as your guy, Amon-Ra St. Brown. He did practice this week with an ankle injury, and that high-flying offense might take a hit in Detroit.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, St. Brown has been their best receiver on the young season, so definitely monitoring his status.
We didn't make this list, but local David Montgomery's also kind of named up as well. So we'll see. But here's a big note that's getting exciting for Mr. Jet over there. Zach Wilson making the return. What I heard, the air raid Flacco offense may be over coming this weekend for the Jets.
Yeah, I think he's fresh off his shagging middle-aged women, and now he's ready to get back onto the football field. I think he had some sort of injury, but
he did.
We can talk about it when we get to that game. It's really hard to judge whether that's actually going to be an upgrade or a downgrade for the Jets under center.
Yeah, Flacco's playing okay. But yeah, I mean, he did have a knee injury, America. He wasn't just out because he was, recovering from some, venereal disease. But he hurt his medial ligament, from what I heard. So, okay, let's talk about the games last week, some of the highlight games. The Dolphins, I don't know, man. This team is defying metrics and the imagination. They were plus 5.5 in the game against the Bills. They win the game outright, 21-19. Kind of in smoke and mirrors, right? I mean, they were outplayed 90-39 in the game. They were outgained 497-212. They barely had the ball for less than 20 minutes. I don't know when the last time this has all happened and the team has actually won. But the heat and humidity maybe got to the Bills. They had 14 starters that basically at some point didn't play in the game, either starting the game or went out at some point. So, and obviously Tua is a little banged up coming out of this game as well. What a crazy 3-0 start for the Dolphins.
Yeah, definitely not a deserving win. I think that they were even lucky to get a cover in that game, let alone win, just based on the box score.
Mm-hmm. So we'll see, and we'll talk about that's a classic possible paper tiger, and they're playing tonight. This is obviously taping right when they're playing tonight against the Bengals. How about your Colts? Hey, we didn't go on this game, but the Colts did upset the Chiefs. We were talking about it quite a bit. 2017 with the win. They actually shut out the Chiefs in the second half, so the defense came to play despite your guy Shaq Leonard. I still have to call him Darius. Didn't play again. I saw him cheering on the sideline, but they must have done something in the second half to shut down the Chiefs.
Yeah, I mean, they really played well defensively, and I think the Chiefs kind of got their own way a little bit too. A couple of botched fourth downs and then a fake field goal that didn't go well. They were using Harrison Butker in the game, which I think was really huge because Amendola missed a kick and then they went for that fake field goal. And they just didn't have any confidence in the kicking game, which I think just reverberated throughout the entire offense.
Yeah, three phases. I mean, especially in a close game like that, those field goals, extra points, or whatever make a big difference. All right, here's some of our calls. We did have the Bengals winning. They were favored by 6 against the Jets. They covered fairly easily, 27-12 in that one. I did think the Jets were going to somehow figure out a way to get inside the back door, but luckily they didn't. And the Bengals were able to, really without Jamar Chase, he didn't play very well, but they got it done in that game. So kudos to us in that one. How about the Eagles? We were on the Eagles, -6.5 at Washington. They destroyed the Commanders 24-9. They look great. Your guy Jalen Hurts is making a case for MVP.
Yeah. I mean, that one was definitely a rocking chair winner for us. It was 24-0 at halftime, and I think the Eagles just kind of switched off in the second half. They were held scoreless, but the Commanders were never even threatening in that game.
Yeah, I think it was 24-8. I put that incorrectly. My bad. America.
Yeah.
You're checking my math. 24-8. And by the way, in this game, I believe they sacked Wentz 9 times. It was insane. They were just destroying him. So look out, Cowboys. You got another game for that. The Titans, we were on this. This was a sweater. Titans were +2 in this game. And we basically didn't think the Raiders should be favored. Our proxy was very upset with us when we put this pick in. He tried to talk us off of it. But they get the outright win, and this game was really interesting. They were up like 24, I don't know, it was 24-0, 24-6. They were up big early, and the Raiders came storming back and had a chance to tie the game, went for 2 and did not get it in the end. They were benefited by a couple of big plays. Huge play at 4th and 10, hit a 50-yard bomb to Mac Hollins, which is also our proxy's favorite player now. And then they got a kind of a defensive hold. It was kind of questionable to get in the red zone. So we sweated that one out, but I'm glad we got that win.
Yeah, 24-10 at halftime, actually. The Titans were held scoreless in the second half and let the Raiders back into the game. But it really never felt like it was that close until the very last minute there when the Raiders finally got it into the end zone and then thankfully failed on that 2-point conversion, and we avoided overtime.
Phew, we did it. The Rams, similar situation. We were at -3.5. We were on the Rams. They beat the Cardinals. It was another one of these games where I was like, oh shit, because we had that hook. And they too were up the whole game, and then the Cardinals had a chance to get in the back door. It was 21-10. They scored a touchdown late, went for 2 and got stopped. That one would have got them in the back door for the Cardinals. So we got that one. Plus, the Niners, that was a weird game on Sunday Night Football. The abomination, as I think you called it, lose outright at Denver 11-10. I don't even know how this game, it was one drive for Denver. Jimmy G was not good. In the end, I still think San Francisco was the right side, but they just couldn't cover the 1.5 or whatever it was and ended up losing outright 11-10.
Yeah, it was a battle of punters. I think every time I looked up, one punter or the other was pinning the other team inside the 5-yard line. And I know you and I were trading texts because Jimmy G was just awful in that second half. He was throwing into triple coverage on the interception. And, he went over 200 yards barely, but it was not a good game for Jimmy.
I think at one time they were 0 for 9 on third downs or something like that. Conversions, They finally got one late, but atrocious. And then the other kind of honorable mention, we did not pick this game, but everybody in the contest ended up picking the Jags because they thought Herbert was going to be out and the Chargers were favored in this game. But it turned out to be the right side. I don't think that's why the handicap was there. They were kind of going with the auto pick, and we faded that just to stay away from it because we did that last year.
Yeah.
But the Jags, man, I mean, 38-10, it wasn't even close in this one. I ask you the question, are the Jags for real?
They're pretty good. Yeah, I mean, their defense has been awesome. They're the only team in the league right now that's top 5 in DVOA, both offensively and defensively. So certainly impressive, although I would say that their strength of schedule has been a little weak so far.
It has been. So we'll see. I mean, they play the Eagles this week. That'll be a game we'll talk about. Why don't you tell me about some of these trends here? Through 3 weeks, the average points. What do we got here?
Yeah, I mean, just tracking the scoring here, it's down this season. If you recall 2 years ago during the pandemic, mostly fueled by empty stadiums, we saw scoring like up in the upper 40s. And so far through 3 games, the average points scored in every game has been 41.9, which is considerably lower than what we've seen recently. And the odds makers are adjusting now. You've seen it on the board last week. Unders went 8-8.
Right.
And so the overs kind of bounced back from what we saw in the first 2 weeks, but that's because these points totals just keep going down and the scoring is falling accordingly.
And, I'm not as good as Action in terms of betting, but if you look at the openers on the totals, they're much higher. They're getting bet down immediately. And so within like a day or two. So if you can get those openers somewhere on Sunday night or Monday or whenever it comes out for you, do it. Because, I mean, most of those totals go way down and they're still going under those totals. I mean, it's 8-8 now, but it's only because the odds makers are making the adjustment. I think the openers, you'd see them all under. But underdogs are still taking care of business. They were 10-6 last week. We've seen it again and again. Maybe it'll start regressing. And we picked a lot of favorites last week, and they did cover. But for the most part, underdogs are still getting it done.
Yeah, definitely.
And then I kind of always say this. It's kind of, I'm the only ringing this bell, but it's like if you pick a favorite and they win, they usually cover because it's only usually a game to up to 3 games in a week when that doesn't happen, when the hook gets you or whatever. And we'll talk about that this week because there's a lot of 3.5s to talk about. But it's just picking the right side is more important than picking the spread, in my opinion. So
absolutely.
All right, let's get to 4. We just kind of mentioned that the game's already going on. You've got the Dolphins going to Cincinnati. It's an interesting game. I wish it was Sunday because I think it'd be a good one to debate. Looking at what we're seeing here, I mean, the Bengals are 3.5 point favorites. They opened at 48 down to 47. They went from a 1-point favorite to 3.5. I don't know when the opener was. I don't know if that's because of Tua's health or whatever. I do like the Bengals in the game. 3.5 is always a tough number. I mean, what is your take on 3.5? I've heard some different things lately on these like VSiN and stuff.
Well, I mean, it's largely dependent on how you rate the 2 teams. I mean, in general, if you have a game where you think the number based on your evaluation should be 2.5, 3, then taking the hook every time is a huge advantage, probably somewhere in the neighborhood of like 5% to get you from what might be a 50% play up to 55. So, I mean, there's a couple games on this board, one of which that I've picked out later, where I think it's an extremely massive edge to take the underdog at 3.5.
Yeah, and that's, so many games I've heard a lot of, VSiN does a great job of advertising. They talk about how many games end on the 3 or, it's just like, so many games, the key numbers, as we've talked about, in past years and podcasts, key numbers being 3 and a lot of times it's 6 now, 6 and 7. But the 3 is still probably the king, right? There's so many 3-point games.
Yeah.
And so that half is there. So,
but I mean, this particular game, it's now 7-3 Cincinnati. Miami just got on board with a field goal. You saw money, just loads of money cascading in on the Bengals all week. And I think that's largely due to the heat and humidity that the Dolphins played in on Sunday, short week, and they were on the field for 90 plays defensively. So you got to figure that the Dolphins defense is going to wear down before this game ends.
Agreed. And they've talked a lot about that the secondary for the Dolphins is pretty bad. I mean, they've given up big numbers to everybody. So obviously Mark Chase and the gang, if they can get time, and they haven't getting good pressure on quarterbacks either. So it is like I said, it was Sunday. I'd probably be on the Bengals,
Right.
but.
Same.
So let's talk about Vikings, and this is our first London game. It doesn't involve the Jaguars, which that's our home team, but the Vikings against the Saints. So it opened as Vikings -2. It's Vikings 2.5. It's 2.5 now. The total stayed at 44. The Saints, I've talked about it before. I brought them, with not just with Jameis, but with the new coaching staff. Jameis is regressing. We can see this. He's given up a lot of turnovers, especially late in games when he's trying to push the ball. But I don't know, man. Vikings defense sucks too. So, I mean, I'm fine to stay away from this one action, but I guess I painfully take the Saints in this one, even though, God, I mean, the Vikings should score some points, even though the defense is pretty good for the Saints.
Yeah, I really like the Vikings in this matchup. I think that they're going to have some pretty significant edges offensively running the football.
Okay.
Their run offense so far through 3 games is 3rd ranked, and the Saints' run defense has been less than average. They're ranked 19th stopping the run, and even worse when you look at the line play. So couple that with the fact that I've watched the Saints offense struggle now for 2 weeks in a row. If you take away the 2 garbage time touchdowns, I'll call them, the one they got last week in Carolina and then the week before against Tampa late in the game,
Right.
their offense is averaging like 9 points a game.
Yeah.
So despite the Vikings' admittedly poor numbers defensively, I am not expecting that the Saints are going to be in a position to take advantage of that. So I think that getting the Vikings under a field goal here is a good look. And in London games that have not included the Jaguars, the favorites are 15-7 against the spread.
That's a good total. I like that. I like that little stat. I don't know if I can get on board with you, though. I hear what you're saying, because I don't like the Saints. I've said it from the beginning, but something tells me that they'll play a little bit better. And the Vikings, honestly, part of it is the way that they looked last week against your Lions. I mean, they should have lost the game.
Definitely.
They played terribly. And the Lions defense is bad. And it took them really 3.5 quarters to really start moving the ball on that team. And it was just shocking to me. But I'll keep a note. Maybe you can talk me into it later.
All right.
All right, here we go. Browns are going to the Falcons. Interesting line here. I don't know when this opened up where the Browns were 3-point dogs. Is that what it's saying on the road? But
No, it was -3.
Okay,
Yeah.
so they were 3-point favorites on the road, 46-point total. This is a rare total going up to 50. And the Browns are a short favorite at -1. I know that the Falcons, they actually got their big win last week at Seattle. And Myles Garrett may not play. That's a big factor. But how is Atlanta against the run? I mean, we know what the Browns are going to do. They're going to run the football. Jacoby Brissett has played pretty good at quarterback. Not that I'm all on Team Browns, but I don't know. It's a weird line to me.
Yeah, it is weird. I mean, this Browns team I think they have an edge in the coaching department with Stefanski. I mean, they gave away that lead against the Jets, but if you think about back, if Chubb had just gone down and not scored that touchdown, the Browns would be 3-0 right now.
Yep.
And I think that this line would paint a completely different picture than going down to 1.
Mm-hmm.
And to answer your question, the Browns run offense, 2nd ranked DVOA,
Yep.
and the Falcons run defense is 28th running against the run. So I think the Browns are going to have a huge edge there moving the football. And the way that Brissett has been playing, I think the Browns are a pick here in this game. I think that
I'm with it.
All right.
Just trying to figure out if there was, besides the Myles Garrett news, if he doesn't play, it's a press line. I'm trying to figure out why it's happening. So
I think the market has been impressed with the overachievement of the Falcons offense.
Okay.
Quite admittedly, preseason, I mean, there were people handing out picks for the Falcons to be the lowest scoring team in the league, and so far through 3 weeks, their offense is ranked 8.
Yeah, Browns played well.
They can run the football too. They're 6th ranked running the ball, and I got to admit the Browns defense has not been stellar at stopping the run either.
Mm-hmm.
But I still think that even if Myles Garrett doesn't play, that the Browns are going to be able to have some success on the offensive side of the ball, enough so to cover this 1 point.
Yeah, so let's put it in there, yellow. That's one of the considerations here.
Okay.
All right, so let's go to, this is Dallas hosting Washington, the Commanders. This opened as a pick. Interesting. I don't know when that opened again. But Dallas goes up to a 3-point favorite at home. You're showing, I don't know, totals are 42.5. It's kind of weird where the total is. Your guy, Cooper Rush, is now undefeated, not just against the spread, but he's 3-0 in his starts. He played pretty well, and actually should have done better. CeeDee Lamb dropped a 40-yard bomb that was hit him in the hands, and and I've been saying this, since the beginning of the year. The defense is great. As long as McCarthy doesn't have to make a decision late in the game, let this defense go after it. Maybe I'm getting a little too excited about my Cowboys here at home. 3 points. Is this the game that Carson Wentz plays great against a great defense? I don't know. Talking to it, I'd be on the Cowboys here.
No, I like the Cowboys too. I personally 3 ready in my bank, my account. But I was kind of expecting this line to come out at 3.5. I think just pulling up the odds screen here a little bit, you've already started to see this one shift a little bit toward 3.5 in the market. And all of the threes are heavy juice to the Cowboys, -20, pretty much across the board, with a couple of 3.5s already up on leading books. So I think that the Cowboys are the pick here. And for me, it starts with the offensive side of the ball for Washington, because they're 28th ranked offensively. And even worse, their offensive line and pass protection is 30th ranked.
Right.
You mentioned it. They gave up 9 sacks to the Eagles last week, and that makes 15 through 3 games. And now they have to go up against that Vontae.
Yeah, they were making Davis run over the place, and he ran for 79 yards. That's mainly because he was running for his life. I think that Wentz could have a tough day. I'm happy putting this one in green if you want, unless you want to consider later. It's fine with me.
No, let's lock in the Cowboys.
All right. Next one we may differ on. The Jags are going to Philly. The Jags have overachieved, clearly. This game opened as a 7. And now in the contest it's 6.5, and that's the market. It actually went from 47.5 to 48.5. So this is an interesting game to me. I can't get off the Jags. I was down on them, dogging them all preseason. I didn't think they were going to be any good. But the youth movement has worked. Peter seems to have this team playing well. And the revenge factor, right? I mean, I know maybe you don't think about it. I think Peterson's going to have a good game plan for this game. Now, granted, the Eagles are probably the class of the NFC, but when it was at 7, I was all over the Jags. Be a great number for us. I can't go with the Eagles at 6.5. So to me, it's Jags or pass.
Well, I'm not sure I can get to the Jags side of this handicap, because for me, it just comes down to that strength of schedule.
Sure.
Let's see, just loading here. So far, they've played against Washington week 1, Indianapolis, and then a banged-up Chargers team last week. And DVOA has their schedule ranked last, 32nd in the league. And while they put up some pretty good numbers, I think that Philly is for real. And taking this show on the road, especially after having traveled to LA last week and getting a big road win, their first one in a very long time, I think that this is a letdown spot for the Jags, and I just can't bet them. But I'm okay if we're passing instead of
Philly. Yeah, let's just pass then. I'll safely sit on the sidelines and wear my teal little or whatever that is, aquamarine. So, all right, let's go Jets and Steelers. This game opened as the Steelers is at 4.5 or 4 points. Is that right? 4-point favorites?
Yeah.
Yep. One total, and then now it's 3. It's an interesting game. I guess Wilson's worth a point.
Maybe.
I don't know. The Jets aren't very good. We know that. They pull one out of their ass against the Browns. I think the Steelers defense is pretty good. If Minka Fitzpatrick doesn't play, okay. But look, I'd feel a lot better if Kenny Pickett was starting, to be honest with you. I'm happy to pass on this game, but I don't know if I can back the Steelers, man. And we've done it. They've won for us, a couple of occasions, but I'm not sure. The Jets aren't very good. It's a weird game.
Yeah, I personally took 3.5 the other day when I saw some rumblings that Zach Wilson was going to be on there.
Right.
And I saw the market move a little bit towards the Jets, and I just wanted to jump on it. But the more I look into the numbers on this game, I'm not really sure that they're going to have much of an edge on either side of the ball.
Right.
And then further, Zach Wilson coming in is probably just more of a question mark than anything else. So I think it's probably a pass too.
Sounds good. All right, let's go to the hometown squad. Seattle is going to Detroit. Detroit is, what are they, the best 1 and 2 team in the league? Right?
Yeah.
They actually are. Their defense sucks, but that offense is high flying. They might be obviously missing Swift and their top receiver, but they own a 6-point favorite against Seattle, 48-point total. The total's up to 50, and it's a 4-point game now, which I like a lot better than the 6. I don't know. I don't think Seattle's very good. I mean, I know that it seems like at home, Geno Smith's been playing pretty good. He played decent last week against an Atlanta team. Yeah, I mean, 4 points is a lot to lay, I guess, for any team that's questionable in defense, but I don't think I could back Seattle in this spot.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think we touched on it 2 weeks ago. Was it when the Lions were favored for the first time in what felt like forever? Well, I mean, I had the same feeling in this one when I saw
Yeah.
6 pop up on the board on Sunday night. But I do think that 4 is a little bit more reasonable in terms of a number here. And as you might expect, the Lions have a pretty huge edge on the
They
offensive
do.
side of the ball, especially well, really both sides, running and passing. And I think the Seattle Seahawks secondary is banged up a little bit. So even if Amon-Ra St. Brown, although I expect fully that he's going to be out there, I think that the Lions are going to be able to move the ball and put up a lot of points in this game. So far, I put in a pick on the team total over 27 because I think in looking at these two sides, they're both capable of scoring, but I trust the Lions offense a lot more to put up points. And I think that we should consider the Lions, but it might be like 6-7 range in terms of our
And
hierarchy.
yeah, like our priority. Well, let's put a yellow on there and we can consider them
Okay.
where at the end of the day. Because I think that they're not going to be a highly picked team.
Yeah.
And we did good last week. We'll get to our total picks last week, 4-1, and we were not in the consensus at all. They had like one pick. So,
Yeah, true.
all right. So, a couple more in the 1 o'clock window. You got the Chargers going to Houston. The Chargers, I mean, you may have Herbert's going to play, but you get the Chargers open as a 6.5 point favorite. Now they're down to 5 in the contest. Total from 45 to 44.5. Yeah, this is a scrappy bunch again. The Texans, this is what they do. They just kind of figure out a way to stay in games and everything, even though they lose games, but they still are in there. They're 0-1, but it's a spread. Um, I can't trust the Chargers ever. I don't know. I love the Chargers. We both have jerseys at home, but 5 points on the road. I mean, the Texans are not great. You can tell me their DVOA score, but I can't trust the Chargers on the road -5. No way.
Yeah, I agree completely, especially with all the injuries that they have on both sides of the ball now. Bosa
Sure.
going out, I think is going to be almost as impactful as the left tackle, and I think the right tackle is hurt as well. So I definitely have no interest whatsoever in the Chargers side in this game. If you remember last year, they went into Houston with a chance to really solidify their playoff position, and they lost as like 11-point favorites.
They
So
did.
um,
And they gave 41 points too
yeah. So
to Davis Mills. He loves his team.
Davis Mills has shredded this defense in the past, so I can't get there with the Texans, though. I think it's pass.
And you can. Okay, and
No.
that's fine. Yeah, I mean, I did have him as a pick, but I love that 6.5. I mean,
Hmm.
that's why I got bet down. It's too high. But yeah, well, we could pass. No big deal. There's other games we can consider.
Okay.
How about this one? Can I interest you in a Bills Ravens game? So obviously the Bills schedule opening up is rough. I mean, Jesus, we love them as a Super Bowl, pick, but they're definitely going through the gauntlet to start. They opened as a 3-point favorite. It's still 3 points in the contest. The total though got hammered down from 55.5 to 51.5. And so, this is an interesting game action. I do love the Bills. I don't know how healthy they are. They had a lot of issues last week, and I don't know. My pick's the Ravens here plus the 3. I don't know if it's a Harbaugh thing or just because I think it's just going to be them playing, trying to make a statement or something. But the Bills certainly are probably the better team on paper. I'm sure you're going to say that on your DVOA, and they are, when it early Wegs index stuff. But I can't really. I definitely would, take the points, I guess, with the Ravens here.
Okay. Well, yeah, I lean to the other side.
Yeah.
This has been a really interesting battle in watching the line moves all week because it's been bouncing around between 3.5. It even touched 4 at one point,
Hmm.
where some sharp money pounced on the Ravens at the 4, moved it
Yep.
back to where it's at 3. But the part that makes this tough is the Buffalo secondary injuries.
Right.
And I mean, if they were fully healthy, I think Buffalo at 3 would be a slam dunk. But obviously,
Sure.
that's factored into the price here.
Hmm.
So, I mean, I don't think I can get there with the Ravens, though. Another point in this game is that there's an expectation that some of the Hurricane Ian weather is going to be still lingering in the area. So you've seen that total go down from 55 to 51 with an expectation of high winds. And I just wonder how that's going to affect both of these offenses, because so far this season, Baltimore has not really gotten the run game going. They're 19th ranked running the ball, and I think that if Lamar Jackson is forced forced away from the pass to run, that Buffalo is going to have an edge just based on the wind conditions.
So let's talk game theory, because I think this will be a highly picked game, one side or the other. Do you think that the contest guys would pick Ravens +3?
I do. I think the Ravens are going to be a more popular pick than the Bills, certainly.
Yeah, so if we wanted to, we could go contrarian and go Bills -3 just to go against the field, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's going to be a fun game to watch.
Oh, yeah, I can't wait.
Right? So, it's probably a great, I don't know. It'll just be a fun game to watch. It's definitely a playoff matchup. So let's yellow Bills, because I know how I feel on the Ravens, but I think my theory is people are going to pick the Ravens, like you said. So maybe it's better to go away from that.
Yeah, and I think this is a game where I definitely have earmarked to look down at practice reports on Saturday morning, because if one or two of those guys in the secondary from Buffalo return, it's going to be a complete game changer. And add in the fact that the whole handicap against the Dolphins tonight was their defense being tired from the game on Sunday in Miami, and the Buffalo defense didn't really play that much on Sunday. They were never on the field, and several of them were out injured. So if they return, they're going to be fresh.
Yeah, I know that. I mean, Ed Oliver didn't play down there. I'm hoping he plays, like you said, the run game. So we'll see. But okay, let's talk about the next one. There's two more in the 1 o'clock window. You got the Bears against the Giants. This opened as a pick. Not sure why. And then it went to 3 for the Giants. Both these teams aren't that great. I think Dable's probably a little bit better coach, but total's 39. Tough one, action. I mean, the Bears and they won the game against the Texans somehow. I mean, not that the box score was. I watched the game and I thought the Texans should have won the game, but there was an interception in the end zone, and then the late interception by Mills basically sealed the fate. I don't know. It's tough to watch my team, but I think they'll play okay. But I can't really back the Giants either, man. Dude, it's like, stay away from me.
Yeah, totally. I was kind of leaning to the Bears at 3.5, but the 3 doesn't make me feel quite as good about it, because we talked about it with Dave, our proxy, that they just don't throw the football. And it's hard to win football games when you don't throw, but they're somehow 2-1. So
yeah, these are the two worst 2-1 teams in the history of the NFL.
I do think, though, if Montgomery sits and Herbert's out there, it gives them some completely different looks running the football. He's shifty and dynamic. And through 3 games, the Bears' run offense has been 5th ranked. So they're certainly having some success doing that and not passing the ball. And maybe that's probably part of the reason why they pass so few times in reality.
Well, and the Giants gave up, 180 yards to Dallas last week. So, I guess it's more, to me, it's like, can the Bears stop Saquon Barkley? And, he's got nobody to throw to anymore, Danny Dimes. So I guess it would be a Bears or pass in this one.
Definitely.
Hard to get on board with a contest pick, that's all.
Let's put a fork in it. Maybe no color, but we can think about it.
Okay, let's do your team, the Titans, going to the Colts. Colts coming off the big win. 4-point favorites at home. It's in the opener. Now it's 3.5. So it's that weird number again. 44 down to 42.5. The Titans got their win. We knew they were going to get their win. They played better, but the first half was good. The second half sucked against the bad Raiders. So, God, I hate this line action. I wanted to be all Colts. I'm still favoring the Colts here, but I don't love it. I don't love the 3.5. I do think that the Colts showed me something, at least defensively. Their offense still wasn't great against Kansas City. So, can you get on board with the Colts, or you tell me that you got to go with the 3.5, plus 3.5 here.
Yeah, the latter. I
Mhm.
couldn't believe that this number was 3.5, to be honest,
I,
and I still can't believe that it hasn't moved off the number because Tennessee has had the Colts number the last several seasons. They beat them twice last year,
they
which
did.
ultimately kept them out of the playoffs. And it hasn't really been Derrick Henry doing the damage either in the
No.
past couple of seasons against Indianapolis because they have a pretty good run defense. In fact, it's second ranked stopping the run.
Mhm.
I think, though, for me, it's the other side of the ball. I've watched this Colts offense for 3 weeks struggle, and Matt Ryan just looks awful. He now has
Mhm.
7 fumbles on the season. Thankfully, hasn't lost all of them, but he could have. And the Colts offense is ranked 32nd. So I don't see how any offense with those numbers should be laying any points to an NFL team. And I think there's value on the dog here, especially with the hook.
All right, let's put it as a yellow. I mean,
All
it
right.
is in my analysis. I had the Colts -2, right? I think that's the right number. I don't know why it's 2.5 or 2, but I guess they figured everybody would take the Colts. It's just, and these divisional matchups. We've said these divisional road dogs over
Mm-hmm.
3.5. I mean, or 3.5 is always a good pick. So
2 to
let's
3.5, 55% Wags. That's winning money long term.
let's win some money, right? All right, let's get into this short 4 o'clock window. Only 3 games this week because of the London game. You've got the Cardinals going to the Panthers. The Panthers open as I guess, 1 point dog here at home, and now they're 1.5 point favorite. The total hasn't moved off of 44. I had a guy, one of my friends' brothers, he loves our podcast apparently, so gotta give him a shout out. But Dalton, but he loves the Arizona. I can't get on board with Arizona, and I've been on the card or the Panthers all year. I don't
Mm-hmm.
love that it's 1.5. It doesn't really matter, I suppose, 1.5 versus 2, but I mean Baker, that offense sucks. But I love this defense. I still love this defense in action. So I'm still on board with Carolina -1.5.
All right. And it is 1.5 in the contest. Okay. I laid one this morning with the Panthers.
Right.
I like you and like Dalton. Really, initially when I looked at this game, I thought to myself, first reaction, Arizona, because
Right.
they have been stellar on the road the last 2 seasons.
Yeah.
Excellent numbers with Kingsbury on their travels. But this team this year is not the same Arizona Cardinals that we've been accustomed to seeing, and it's really their defense. They've been awful, 31st ranked defensively, and their offense hasn't really been able to make up for it with Kyler Murray and company.
Right.
So I think that Carolina, the one question mark for me though is McCaffrey's status. He was a
Right.
DNP the last 2 days, and I think that with him not in the field, it's a little bit different of a football team. But I think that Carolina is definitely worth a yellow for us.
Okay. Let's put the yellow. I know the sharps will be all over these guys. For some reason, they're just like me. I love fucking Panthers. Stupid defense. Their defense is good, but
Mm-hmm.
that offense is so bad this year. God, I mean, Baker, it's like they won last week and they dominated the Saints, and they still was because they had a pick six or something, right? They had a
Yeah,
fumble.
yeah,
That's why
defensive
they got
score.
some more points. Their offense isn't really scoring, which is disappointing. And by the way, is DJ Moore in a milk carton? The guy never gets the football. It's just weird.
Yeah,
All right, here we go. Big game. Patriots against the Packers. Sounded big when Mac Jones was available. Now he's out. It's the Brian Hoyer Bowl. This game, I actually had it opened up. I think it was more like 10 or 10.5. You have it at
yeah,
9.5. The total's 42 down to 40. Now it's 9.5 in the contest. We know that the Packers cover at home at a very high clip. I don't like 9.5 though. I mean, if this
hmm
game was 7.5 even, I'd probably go with it. I can't go with the Pack here, 9.5, even though theoretically the Pats should, get throttled, I guess. But the defense isn't that bad. It's just the offense is going to stink.
yeah. How do you compare the downgrade from Mac Jones to Brian Hoyer? Any idea of how many points the Patriots are going to lose from that move?
Fair question. Well, when I handicapped the game, just independent of Mac Jones' status, I had Green Bay -6.
Uh-huh.
So I guess it's 3 points, 3.5 points. So I think maybe it's not quite 3.5, maybe it's 2. But I think Hoyer's, I mean, I don't even know how old he is now. He's going to be fine. The Green Bay defense is actually okay,
Uh-huh.
but they did give up a lot of yardage to the Bears on the ground. So you got to figure the Patriots are going to come out and just try to run the ball and try not to turn the ball over. So, and I wasn't impressed. I mean, we'll talk about the Bucs in a minute. The Bucs defense is really good,
Yeah.
and they let them score on the first two drives. And I was like, what the hell happened to the Bucs? And then they shut the door on them. They just couldn't get any points. New England, we'll see if they're capable of doing that. But I mean, the total. Look at that total. It's 40.
Yeah.
I mean, it's 40, and they're getting a 10-point favorite. Come on, Action. You're Mr. Underdog. I mean, you can't be laying 9.5.
You're right. No doubt about it. I have no interest in laying 9.5, and you absolutely nailed it. The Patriots run offense, number one, DVOA, and conversely, the Green Bay run defense, 32. So
Right.
I think that this total tells you the odds makers know exactly what Bill Belichick and the Patriots are going to do. They're going to run the ball, and this game is going to be played in the teens. So making 9.5 a lot more valuable than it would be in a normal game.
Can you get on board in the contest, or that's too much?
I think we should consider it. You definitely sold me a little bit in comparing that spread and total here. I just have concerns about the Patriots defense. I mean, 22nd ranked against the 9th ranked Packers, and I saw last week that Aaron Rodgers and Romeo Doubs are making a connection. I think he had 12 catches and might be the new Devontae Adams at some point. So
yeah, and I liked him coming out of the draft. I thought he was the guy, but we'll see. We'll see how the connection is. I mean, I'm sure Belichick watched that tape too. So
good point.
But Aaron Jones didn't have a good game in Tampa. I mean, Aaron Jones is the main weapon, sure. So we'll see if they just try to stop the run and make him, throw those short, quick throws.
Pats run defense is kind of crappy too, though. 29th ranked on their own right.
Well, there you go. Okay, Broncos and Raiders. The Raiders 0-3. Sorry, Proxy, the only 0-3 team in the league right now. There's an 0-2-1 team in the Texans. So Denver goes to the Raiders. Denver eked out a win. They're another terrible 2-1 team. They opened actually as a 2-point dog on the road at 45.5 point total. But wait, are you showing the Raiders as the favorite? I thought the Broncos were the favorite.
The Raiders are definitely favored in this game.
Jesus Christ. Damn it.
I got to pick just based on that reaction.
Oh, God. Well, the thing is, I do think the Raiders are going to win the football game. They're not going to go.
Okay.
But I thought that they were a dog for some reason. Damn it. Oh, well. Scrap the whole handicap. But no, I mean, look, I can't really back the Broncos. I know that they had the one drive against San Francisco. Maybe they give them life. Like, hey, we've got a chance here. But I don't know. I got to see it to believe it. I know the Raiders are going to win the game, though. I just know it.
I'm going to veto that decision. I can't believe this line. I still can't believe it. This is my strongest pick of the week. I think the Broncos are going to win this game easily.
Okay.
I mean, they have not looked great. I'll give you that.
No.
But
Terrible.
Week 1 in Seattle, if they make a kick or make a better decision, they could be 3-0 right now. And what do you think this line looks like at that point? This Raiders team has horrible numbers, and they've played the 30th ranked schedule. I mean, they've had an easy schedule and sucked it up against an easy schedule. So I think that I agree that Russell Wilson has looked pudgy. He's not willing to run, and I think the offense is pedestrian, but their defense is awesome. They're 5th ranked and 4th ranked against the pass, and I'm not really sure that the Raiders are going to be able to move the ball on them. So I like the underdog in this one.
I know, but let's slow down a little bit. What offenses have they played so far?
The Broncos?
Yes.
All right. Geno Smith.
The Texans, the Seahawks, and the 49ers. I mean,
that's fair.
They're terrible. So I'm not saying that we should pick the Raiders. I'm not, but I don't. This is a game. This is one of those games. It's going to be, Carr's going to pull some magic out. It's going to be the Proxy's going to be so excited when they're throwing deep balls to Devontae Adams and Mac Hollins, and all of a sudden they blow out the Broncos. I understand that's your strongest pick. I just can't go with it, man. Okay. I just can't do it. I think they're going to fall flat because I think they're not a paper tiger, but they're 2-1. They're not a 2-1 team. They should have lost last week, and they did lose the week one. And the Texans gave them all they need to do. They could be 0-3. That's the way I look at it.
They could, yeah.
So,
I do think, given the total, that I really like the Broncos in teasers, though.
sure.
2.5 up to 8.5, I think is a strong one.
Yeah, for sure as a dog, for sure. All right, so let's go with Chiefs Bucks. This is the Sunday night football game. This opened as a Buccaneers -3. Is that what we're saying here?
Chiefs -3.
Okay, Chiefs -3, and now it's down to a pick. So when it was Bucks +3, I was all over this game. I was like, come on. I know what, they're depleted, but they're getting guys back, and that's kind of why the line moved to the Bucks. I think that defense is awesome, and I think they're going to continue to be awesome. I don't like their offense at all, but all they need is a little bit more offense, right? Just a little bit. And they obviously not just be undefeated, but they don't need to be high flying, because I don't think the Chiefs are what they used to be. But talk me off of it. Are you going to go with the Chiefs here? I'd be on the Bucks personally.
No, I don't. I'm not going with the Chiefs. I agree with you that initially the Bucks I thought were a strong play as an underdog. I have them in a couple teasers already with some points to get them over the touchdown, because they're going to get back a lot of their weapons. Mike Evans is returning from suspension, and he's going to be fresh and healthy, ready to go. I'm seeing reports that Julio Jones should return this week as well. And I think that having those couple receivers back out there, just by that alone, is going to give their offense quite a bit of boost. The Chiefs defense has been pretty good this season, 9th ranked, and certainly higher than the expectations were, I believe. And so I think that my look, I know we texted the other night, is the under. Personally, it moved off right away, just like every Bucks game this year, 47 straight down to 44. And a little bit of buyback now.
Well, it's not necessarily related, but it's not just the Bucks games. I mean, these primetime games have been terrible. I mean, they've all been. I mean, the Giants Cowboys game, I think, ended up going over, but that was after the first half was 6-3. I mean, it was all of a sudden it was a Canadian football game out there, but it was. These totals have been really low, and especially the Sunday night games have been really ugly to watch so far. Maybe it's different. Maybe they conjure up some stuff. Mike Evans coming back, but So what's our take? Do you think that we're considering the Bucks, or just with okay?
I think we should. Yeah. How do you feel this game is going to be picked in the contest from the public?
It's tough. I think the public would be on the Chiefs. I think the sharps would be on the Bucks, because they're kind of seeing, the Tom Brady, he's skinny, and Giselle is beating him up at home or whatever. I don't know. I mean, clearly the money has come in on the Bucks, but I don't know if that's public money. That's probably sharp money, right?
Yeah, definitely to move a line like that. Although, well, I guess there are some picks popping up in some of the sharp shops. Still some ones out there, but wow, there's one book that has the Bucks as 1-point favorites too. Wow, interesting.
I mean, they're kind of. So you're saying the market isn't at a pick right now?
No, most of them are at pick. There's one offshore that has Kansas City -1. DraftKings has Tampa Bay -1 right now, and there's a bunch of picks.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, you don't usually see, and that's not just Tom Brady playing, but you don't usually see him lose these marquee matchups back to back. And granted, it's 2 back-to-back home games too. And he was terrible in primetime. Or we had that narrative a couple of years ago. He couldn't win in primetime, but because he needed a nap or something. But I don't know. I still think Bucks would be my side still.
But you think they're going to be able to slow down Patrick Mahomes in the passing game?
I do. I think it's going to be kind of a slugfest. I would definitely like the under here.
Yeah. Ditto. Okay.
All right. Last game, you got the Rams against the 49ers. It's a rematch. We had the Kansas City Bucks was a rematch of the Super Bowl a couple years ago. Now you got the rematch of the NFC Championship game, Rams 49ers. It opened as a pick. Now 49ers are 1.5-point favorites at home. 45-point total down to 42.5. Jimmy G looked like crap. We all know that. We all saw that. And the Rams, they've won a couple games. They looked bad last time in primetime. See, to me, the common man would say, hey, Jimmy G's going to play better. So, you know what I mean? We got to lay the points. And they have owned this matchup. I know we've talked about that before. The line is, it's right where it should be, actually. It's not a lot of value to me. I did have, in my mind, I'm like, take it San Francisco. But I think it's right where it needs to be. I don't think there's any value to me in the line.
Yeah, 5 straight covers for Shanahan versus his counterpart there in LA, and including the NFC Championship last year, but they obviously lost the game by a field goal, catching 3.5. There's definitely something in the matchups with these two teams. I believe it to be the San Francisco running game and their ability for just to hit the middle of the field, because the Rams are kind of soft in that linebacker lineup and the defense. But, McDaniel's gone now. This isn't the same offense that the Niners have been running in the last couple of seasons.
No question.
And I'm not really sure that they're going to have the same success on that side of the ball. Now, I don't know that the Rams can really have success against the Niners defense either, because they're awesome this season through 3 weeks, 3rd ranked defensively and 3rd ranked against the run, 5th against the pass. So I think it's going to be another low-scoring game, as evidenced by the total 40 points in itself. But I think I lean to the Rams in this one.
Yeah, I think the value is to the Rams, right? I think because they're the dog and it's going to be a slugfest. So, but 1.5, it's basically we think the Rams are going to win the game, and I don't know.
I really think that Trent Williams, out of all those players that we listed at the front here, the injuries, Trent Williams is probably the biggest. They were actually moving the ball a little bit on Sunday night against Denver until he went down, and they did absolutely nothing after that because Jimmy was under pressure on like every play.
Yeah, he was. Yeah. Did we even talk about Jimmy? He's saying, what did he say? He said, these plays fucking suck or something. He was caught. Did you see that meme when he was caught like mouthing that?
Was that before or after he stepped out of the back of the end zone?
Yeah, right. I think it was after he threw the interception into triple coverage. Okay, well, let's highlight the Rams.
Okay.
I don't know if we're happy to pass on this game too, but we don't have a ton of picks this week that we get upon. So, yeah, well, let's just review what we've talked about that we were kind of on at least. We do like the Browns -1. We'll talk about that one again. We love the Cowboys -3 at home against the Commanders. Detroit -4. Buffalo plus the 3 is a contrarian pick. The Titans plus 3.5 going against Action's Colts. The Panthers -1.5. The Pats plus 9.5 at Green Bay. And then going with the Bucs at a pick, and then the Rams plus 1.5. Yeah, we do have plenty of picks, so I'm happy to fade those two too. So.
Yeah, plenty to talk about on Saturday, more than I thought initially.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's go over the contest. We went 4-1. Congratulations, Action. We had a good week there. Good call, flipping from the Bills to the Eagles. That was a key pick for us. That moves us to 9-6 on the season, which is solid, obviously. That puts us in like 1118th place, which is, it's good.
Okay.
It's 4,600 people. So top quarter, basically. The top dogs are 15-0, though, Action. There's 2 people at the top that are 15-0, and the top 100 is 12-3. So we're still 3 off the pace for the money, but it did come back. The pack is coming back a little bit. So we got to keep at it. Hopefully we don't have another backslide week. We can keep it at 3, 2, 4, and 1 every week. We'll be in the mix,
Agreed. Yeah, I think 60% should be our target. If we can exceed that, it'll just be gravy.
Exactly. So we'll obviously talk again on Saturday before we make the picks, get it to the proxy, make things happen. And this is the end of the first quarter. Doesn't look like we can get in the money unless there's some miracle with the 6 losses, but we want to build momentum into the second quarter.
Definitely.
Which is a 5-week quarter, as you know. So. All right. Well, have a great weekend, everybody. We'll see if we can do some more good picks. Follow us at Side Action Pod on Twitter and Side Action Podcast on Instagram. Follow me at Wexpool on Twitter and on Instagram.
And follow me on Twitter at 31S Roberts.
All right, everybody. Good luck.
That's a wrap for this episode of the Side Action Podcast. We appreciate all of your listens and thank you for joining us. We'll see you all again next week on Thursday for some more hot picks and side action. Side Action Podcast, its owners and associates take no responsibility for the opinions or statements made by the show hosts or their guests. Statements or show topics are not necessarily the beliefs of this podcast, and opinions between talk show hosts may conflict. Individuals following the advice given on the podcast accept their own risk of losses from wagers made. As the Side Action Podcast, its owners, hosts, associates, or guests will not guarantee any advice given. The opinions and advice given on the Side Action Podcast is for entertainment purposes only. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Intro and outro and transition music credits. Song titles Jerry 5 and District 4 by Kevin MacLeod at incompetech.org. Licensed under Creative Commons Attribution 3.0. creativecommons.org/licenses/by 3.0.